Today is the day. It sure is. Greetings and welcome to Smartwatch Ticks, a YouTube channel dedicated to smartwatch. We're available on the web at smartwatchticks.com, and we're looking at Thor. Not just Thor, but the entire Thor family. Today, we're going to help you take a look at and perhaps decide on whether you're interested in the original Thor, which is here, the amazing Thor S, which is here, or the new, larger Thor Pro, which is this one, or the 4G Android 7 version of the Thor 4. That one's here. Now, as we begin this, I want to tell you, I'm going to just do a series of little short videos instead of a good long 2-hour one where we technically dive deep into these watches. This one goes along with the Pareto principle. You heard of that? 80%, 20%? 80% of you should be able to make a decision out of one of these in this video. The 20% who don't, I'm going to spend 80% of my time doing videos on cellular connectivity and GPS and all sorts of technical mumbo jumbo, because there's those out there that need it all. But for the rest of you, the 80% of you, this should do it. So let's start with the Thor. This was the original one that came out. Let's take a nice look at it. First of all, they all have these TPU style bands, and I've got the chargers with them all as well right now. The original Thor right here, and these are custom watch faces, folks. They do not come stock on there. I just wanted to whet your appetite with the potential. They come with TPU bands. The Thor, the original Thor, has this nice red and black band. It uses a charging dock. Comes with this dock. The dock has a USB connection there, and it slides on, as opposed to the magnetic couplers. Why? This was an earlier model. This is the first of them that came out with the 1 gigabyte of RAM, 16 gigabytes of storage. And all of these other ones have that same amount of memory. So we're making it easier already. No matter which one you pick, you're going to get a TPU band. You're going to get the same memory. This one, you get the charging dock. They've all got the heart rate sensor thing, and they've got the cover where you put the SIM card in so you can use it as a standalone calling watch, right? That's the Thor. It's got not really edge-to-edge screen because there's no edge. This is one of those flat ones where it rolls off the side, but you can see it's pretty broad. Let's look at another one. After the original Thor came out, where did we go from there? I think we went to the Thor S. Now, the Thor S is this one. What's it telling me? Today, keep going. There we go. There's a nice watch face. The Thor S, unlike the Thor, which had a side-mounted camera, the Thor S, same basic configuration, took that camera and moved it to the front. So if one of the things you want to be able to do is selfies or video chat, the Thor S, this is the one you're going to want to go for. It's got a TPU band. It's a little bit wider than on the Thor, and the Thor has that double clasp to it. This one's got a single one. All of them have antennas in the band, so you're not going to be able to replace them. The original Thor is relatively flexible. The Thor S is a little stiffer. Notice that? It also uses a magnetic coupling to charge it. And several different models will work with this one. This is kind of a universal method of charging. When you get into it, again, you find that you've got a camera in the front, your power button, back button, and a special call button that when you press this brings up your calling directory. So really optimized for doing video calling and direct, like Skyping or whatever type of calling on this particular watch. It's a full Android watch that's running Android 5.1, just like the original one. Notice the original one there, when we twisted it and turned it on, it gave you the digital time. That's the old standard. The new standard is when you twist it, you get the actual face that you've chosen. Through firmware update, you should be able to update the original Thor to do that as well. A nice thing about this is because it was the first one out, it's probably going to be less money, but give you some pretty darn good comparable capabilities. The Thor S with the video and camera in the front facing you, and then we go big. We go to a larger screen in the Thor Pro. The Thor Pro screen diameter is 1.53 inches. This is 1.39 inches. I know, I'm getting technical, don't want to go there. It's bigger. It's bigger, and it's got a lower resolution screen. Now, I don't know if you can see any difference in pixelization, if that's the word. Obviously, the text is smaller here because it's 400 by 400 pixels. This is 320 by 320. By the way, you can ignore that little white dot. That's an app I put in here called Floating Toucher. We've talked about that before, but that's not a mark on the watch or anything. It's actually something floating on the screen. This is what you call the app drawer. This is a little brighter, but it's just because the brightness is turned down on this one. The Pro is a larger screen and not as many pixels, therefore making everything a little bit larger. If you're eye challenged on seeing close, this is a watch for you. It's the only one on the market like that. If that's not an issue and you're going to do video chatting and social media, the S is the watch for you. And if you want something inexpensive to get into the market with a really bright and nice screen, the original Thor is for you. Follow me? This one has a crazy dock on it. You got to pull this thing off, and that's the dock that's used to charge it. It doesn't use the cable concept like this. In fact, they won't work. There's no magnets there. So don't lose this thing. If you get the big one, you're going to get it with the charging dock. Get it back to a screen. There we go. That snaps on. It even has a cover for the camera, so you're not taking selfies at night. And that's how it works. It's got a TPU band that is narrower than the one on the S and about the same size, it looks like, as the original Thor. And its claim to fame is a big screen, same kind of memory configuration, all of that's the same. But you can definitely read the screen and do all the things you want to with big writing. That leads us into the last one. That's called the Thor 4. Newest technology. All these are running Android 5.1, and they're optimized really well for the use of that operating system. This one bumps it up not to Android 6, but to Android 7. That adds a lot of other overlays that are good things and not so good. You have these things like a screen overlay thing that you got to turn off. You got permissions you've got to turn on. You got a lot of stuff in here, and in all honesty, it's just now coming to market, and it's not working totally well as far as the implementation of Android 7 goes. It's got some things to work out that'll probably be updated through firmware. You want to see it on. All right, power button's there. There's a back button and a power button. 2 buttons on this one. On this one, there were 2 buttons as well. There's a calendar. They keep jumping all over on me. 2 buttons on the Pro, the big Pro. There's 3 buttons, right? On the S, the back and power are up here, and there's that special call button. And the original one had only 1 button on it. 1 button and a side camera. The screens are the same size on these, and notice that this one's got a bezel around it and an edge-to-edge display. That's what we mean. You see that little black circle kind of around the edge? On this one, there's an actual bezel there. But it's almost completely flat, just like this one is, so it's not a big hanging over bezel, which means you can smoothly scroll across it. It's got the 400 by 400 screen, so it's going to have about the same size writing on it as the original Thor. In fact, these two are really, really close together overall, except for the specs. Big bump up in operating system, big bump up in cellular connectivity. All these work on the 3G GSM network. That means if you put a SIM card in them, you have to have it compatible with a network that uses GSM. In the USA, that is AT&T or T-Mobile, not Sprint, not Verizon. Okay? This one, same thing, except it adds 4G with a default down to 3G if you can't get a 4G connection. And one of the problems so far is it's not really hooking up in parts of the USA, if that's where you are, at that 4G level. And so you get 3G connectivity even though you got a 4G phone or watch. So a little bit of work, but we saw that when the 3G first came out. It was 6 months to a year before it settled down and worked everywhere. 4G introduction now is just starting to work in the 4G data communication. That's data, by the way, not voice over LTE like you get on your phone that makes it so crisp, and you can even do video phone calls, not video Skype calls. That kind of technology is not in any watch yet. It's in the phones. This is 4G data. So if you're going to stream YouTube or something at really high speeds, you could do that if you can get this thing hooked up. The drawback is the battery, it's going to eat battery power, so you're going to get shorter battery life. But this has got a humongous battery in it to try to accommodate for that. Now, its hookup for charging is that same wire that connects onto the side. So you don't have a dock or a cradle or anything on this one. You got a screwdriver to take off the plate to get your SIM card in on this one. On the big one, you have it on the side. You can actually undo these by your hand if you don't put them in too tight, and put your SIM card in on the side. This one, the Thor S with the camera in the front, is the same way. The plate in the back, I mean, the backs are pretty much identical. Look at that. You just unscrew it to get the plate in. And the original Thor, same thing. So 3 out of the 4 use the same technology and method for putting in a SIM card. It's only the big Pro that uses it on the side with really big screws that almost look like buttons over there. Are we getting close? Are we getting close? The 4, which is this one, has a same TPU band, similar. Wow, they're all a little bit different. Let's just do a band look. Here you go, all the different bands. This band and this band are pretty close together. The Pro and the 4 are similar, but they're all TPU. They all have antennas in them. They're all non-removable. We have all of these watches here courtesy of Banggood. That's the supplier, an excellent source for all of these pieces of technology. And in the show notes down below the video, there's buying links that go to each and every one of these individually. So if you have settled on wanting one with a front-facing camera that you can use for doing selfies, that's, wow, the Thor S. I was going to get all fancy on you there. If instead you want something really big and easy to read, you probably want to go for the Thor Pro. If you're hot new technology and you're looking to play with the 4G with a camera on the side. By the way, this camera is true 5 megapixels. All the other cameras are 2 megapixel. So you're getting a bump up in camera, bump up in operating system, bump up in cellular connectivity, bump up in price for the brand new Thor 4. Or if you're on a budget and you still want a really darn good, bright, functional, nice watch that's still being made, the original 4 would be for you. So, are you ready? You ready to fly with your Thor watch on? And jump down and pick one of these puppies up. You've been watching Smartwatch Ticks. Appreciate your subscription. By the way, if you want to look at more watches, you can head on over to our resource center. There's a link in the show notes for that as well. Or you can just type in tinyurl.com/Android watches. In there, you'll find a spreadsheet that lists all of the Android watches on the market against all of the different kind of characteristics, from memory to battery size to button numbers, band size, dimensions, all of that is there, as well as some other documents that tell you about recommended apps for Android smartwatches. So have fun. It's all a free resource. It's available for you. We appreciate your subscription and you're supporting our sponsors, because that's basically how we're able to keep this thing going. So if you really like any of these or any of the others, please try and use the links that you find under the show notes to click yourself over and pick up your amazing new smartwatch. All right, we will see you again soon, and there's the whole Thor collection.